I'm not going to wish you good evening today, folks. I'm not going to wish you vanakkam today because I don't think today is a day when I should be using phrases to welcome you to a show. Today is the time when you and I should actually just take a deep breath. We should pause. We should hold ourselves right where we are. If you're watching this broadcast right now with a cup of tea, please put that cup of tea away from you. Because what you will see today is something that will not just shock you, it will not just numb you, but it will make you feel that the more things change, the more actually they don't change. When I woke up today and when I looked at these pictures, when I looked at the horror of Lakhimpur, Kheri in Uttar Pradesh, I asked myself, Lakhimpur, Kheri is the same place, in the same state, where for the better part of the last 2 decades, repeatedly, every few months, we've turned the spotlight on some harrowing instance or the other of rape. That's the main reason why, folks, I don't think today is a day when you and I should be wishing each other for a good evening, because this is clearly not a good evening. Just a few days back, what were we doing? We were all celebrating Har Ghar Tiranga Abhiyan, weren't we? Just a few weeks back, when UP went to polls in the month of February, March, what were we saying? We were saying this is a state where law and order will always hold supreme. And today, what is it that you've been reduced to talking about? You've been reduced to talking about whether it's Dumka in Jharkhand, where someone had the audacity of walking into a woman's house to put kerosene on that, to put acid on that woman and burn that woman to death, or what's happened in Lakhimpur Kheri, where 2 young, innocent women who happened to be Dalits, they were not raped just because they were Dalits, mind you, they were raped and they were hung to die because they were women. And that is the unfortunate reality of our country today, which wants to celebrate its 75th Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which wants to celebrate Har Ghar Tiranga Abhiyan, but it is not in a position to provide equality to women. So no matter what we do, no matter what are the great slogans you'll hear election after election, and no matter what journalists like me try to do to turn the spotlight on, this is not a country for women. This is not a country where women are safe. And that, unfortunately, is a harsh reality. We look at the politics of what's happened in Lakhimpur Kheri. We look at why is it that we just can't get our act right when it comes to providing some semblance of a belief in law and order for women citizens of our country. Just take a look at what's being stated by the stakeholders who are busy trying to push a completely different narrative in terms of what's happened in Lakhimpur.
उनकी फांसी के सजा हो चाहिए।
किसको फांसी की सजा?
जौन पकड़े गए।
अच्छा। और क्या मांग है?
और मांग है एक लड़का की नौकरी,
सरकारी नौकरी। और कुछ मुआवजे की भी मांग है?
और मुआवजा कम से कम जो कुछ मिलना चाहिए।
कुछ आपने बताया, अपनी मांग में बताया कितने रुपए?
1 करोड़ मांगे।
जो भी पिता ने मांग रखी कि जो है उचित मुआवजा, योग्यता के अनुसार जो है नौकरी, तो ये
मुआवजे की बात करी थी 1 करोड़ रुपए की।
उचित मुआवजा, अगर उन्होंने 1 करोड़ कहा तो मैं सहमत हूँ।
अब तक जो कार्रवाई हुई है उसको किस तरह से देखते हो? संतुष्ट हैं कि जो लोग?
हाँ, संतुष्ट हैं। बस जो लोग गिरफ्तार हुए हैं, बस एक बार सिनकत हो जाए, बात खत्म है।
त्वरित गति से अन्वेषण करते हुए इस केस की सभी पहलुओं को देखा गया, सारे फॉरेंसिक एविडेंसेस वहाँ कलेक्ट किए गए तथा 24 घंटे के अंदर ही सारे अभियुक्त, जिसमें से एक व्यक्ति नामजद था, तथा 5 अन्य अभियुक्त इसमें गिरफ्तार किए गए हैं और उसमें एक अभियुक्त घायल भी हुआ है पुलिस कार्रवाई में। इस संबंध में पोस्टमार्टम की कार्रवाई पूर्ण की जा चुकी है, शव परिवारजनों को सौंपा जा चुका है।
जो लखीमपुर की घटना है वह बहुत दुखद और बहुत दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है, पीड़ाजनक है, और इस दुख की घड़ी में विशेष तौर से पीड़ित परिवार के साथ सरकार खड़ी है। लेकिन जहाँ तक अपराध करने वालों की बात है, वो अपराध करने वाला एक भी अपराधी बचने नहीं पाएगा। वो चाहे उसको बचाने की कोई कोशिश करे, छिपाने की कोशिश करे, लेकिन उनको खोज निकाला जाएगा, उनके खिलाफ ऐसी कठोरतम कार्रवाई की जाएगी जो मिसाल बनेगी।
All right, we got Dr. Vikram Singh, former UP DGP. These days he spends his time looking at academics. Tara Kaushal, well-known author, live with us as well, and Amana Begum Ansari from the from the Citizens Foundation for Policy Solutions. Vikramji, let me begin with you, sir. Since you've been on that hot seat of being the UP DGP, and you would have seen, many similar cases in your tenure in UP. Please tell me, sir, why is it that in UP it at regular intervals, whether it's Hathras one day, whether it's Lakhimpur Kheri or it's some other place, why is it that crimes against women are so vibhats, are so dastardly, so cowardly in this state, sir?
Bhupenji, what can I say? It bleeds anyone's heart to see this level of brazenness. I take you back to the incident, abduction, taking the girls to the spot, an isolated spot, gang rape, murder, and then hanging the girls from atop a tree. It takes time. And minimum, even if one is an extreme professional, which I'm sure it is debatable, it will not be less than 60 minutes. Under these circumstances, all this mayhem happening in 60 minutes and no reinforcement, no help, no assistance from the local chowki, local police station, no beat, no
But
naka,
how, sir?
nothing.
But these are sugarcane fields, Vikramji. You and I both know, sir. I mean, do you expect, are we saying that policing in UP is of this level where sugarcane fields from Bahraich to, to Shravasti to Lakhimpur Kheri are going to be manned by police constables?
Not the sugarcane fields, the movement, etc., the picking up of girls, transporting them, and gang rapes. There are village headmen, there are people in the villages who monitor unusual activity. Abduction of two girls, gang rape, murder, and hanging them is not an ordinary crime. It does not go by default. It should have been noticed. Now, the flaw number 2 is when the parents of the deceased went to the chowki, they were not only beaten up, their FIR was not registered, and no reinforcement and help was given. To the contrary, the story was disbelieved and no action against the chowki has been taken. Don't you think that it is a repeat of what happened in Unnao and also Hathras? I have my concerns that this is exactly the script that was played in Unnao and exactly the same in Hathras. And this is the third time. You really have to be bungle up, really try very hard to mess up things like this. Indeed, and I would be very happy if after the Nirbhaya case, the IPC was amended and section 166A was added specifically against those police officers who default and are negligent in matters pertaining to such offences, and there is a provision of suspension, dismissal, and 6 months of imprisonment. Did we do this in Unnao? No. Did we do this in Hathras? No. And we have not done this here. Now, are we inviting trouble for the future? Okay. You have to be cruel to be kind, Bhupenji. Let us not have a boys' club in the form of police uniform. Let it be absolutely, they come down like a ton of bricks on such perpetrators and give a lesson. If you still want to atone for, when I say you, I mean the UP police, atone for the sins and the lapses, please ensure that they're put into fast-track court, they are subjected and given a death sentence, and their last rites are done within the confines of the jail.
But Amana, can I put it this way, Amana ji? Look at the narrative which is being built up as well, right? That in Dumka, and let me be blunt about it, it was a Muslim youth who was picked up by the cops for this rape. In UP, again, these are a bunch of Muslim youth who've been picked up, and there is a narrative being built that now nobody will ask for justice for what has happened here because the culprits happen to be Muslims. Is this a community-specific problem? I mean, should we really be naming and shaming certain members of this community?
Right. Thank you, Bhupendra, for giving me this opportunity to address this issue. I would go into psychology of this. The rape is not only the sexual offense. It is also about the assertion of power and a manifestation of anger on the victim. Perpetrator get enraged in that one moment. The victim just become an object for her, for him, to which he need to taught certain kind of lessons. Now, when we talk about certain incidents, there could be different reason behind every case. But here we can see a simple pattern where I think a mindset of misogynist combined with the communal mindset, or you can say casteist mindset, plays a role as well, where you see the women from the other tribe just an object and you need to use her, or maybe teach a lesson.
But Amana ji, can I again give you a blunt question? Amana ji, can I again be blunt with you? Hear me out. You see, for the better part of the last 2-3 years, what is the kind of discourse that we've seen in our country? There's a hijab debate. There's a halal meat debate. There is this whole notion being built that women are in the Muslim community are being segregated against. There's a bias against them. Now, on top of all this, whether it's Dumka or it's now in Lakhimpur Kheri, if the culprits happen to be from the Muslim community, does it not turn the spotlight maybe on the same elders of the Muslim community the same elders who believe that Muslims are being targeted, when instances like these happen, do you think it's a valid question to raise? That why is it that we don't hear these voices of condemnation from the same community leaders who otherwise are very quick to say that there is victimization against Muslim community?
100%. This is a very valid question, and they don't address it because they don't want to address the complexities of identity in India. You have to address that there could be a section among the Muslim community who are who has a very problematic mindset, and you have to address that. Because they want to only paint a certain kind of narrative that Muslims are only victim in this nation. That's why you don't want to address these elements. That's the simple answer for me.
Okay. Tara, there are so many videos, Tara, on a daily basis that I get. Today itself, can I tell you that in Badaयूं, another district in Uttar Pradesh, I've got a video. I don't want to play this video because these are private videos where a bunch of young women are going to a hookah bar. They're smoking, they're having fun, going to a bar, dancing, and it is being stated that the man who owns that hookah bar happens to be from the Muslim community. The women who are going happen to be from a different community, and therefore there is some kind of a big conspiracy. Do you think there's something very fundamental and maybe sinister which is happening on the ground in small town India that we're not aware of? Are young women maybe asserting themselves? Are younger men maybe exposed to this whole OTT culture, small town, movies and web series and what else you have? Is that turning itself up now into some kind of a monster that we're not aware of?
Oh, we need to be aware of the problems that are happening. And, I need to address a couple of things that have been said before me, Bhupendra. One, you said that there is no point in welcoming people today. But the truth is, if we focus on, I thought I'm a rape researcher, right? And I thought I would wear black every time I was called on a panel. But there is, unfortunately, gender violence in India is a gift that keeps giving. And so every day, if we actually were to turn a spotlight, every day there are thousands of cases, and this is only what reaches the news. When I was researching why men rape, the only thing that was ever, one of the most important things that was said to me was that the only thing unusual about or rare about the Delhi gang rape was that it happened in Delhi to a Delhi girl. Women and girls are brutally raped and murdered in Indian villages all the time. And so it never makes the news. And so this is a case that has made the news. The other factor that I really do want to address, and I say this repeatedly, and I will say it in, addressing what the panelists before me said, it is not a law and order issue. You cannot police everything. It is not a law and order issue, and neither will capital punishment solve it. It is a cultural issue because clearly law and order cannot penetrate.
Why? Tara, tell me. Tara, that's a good point you make.
Yeah.
Please tell me about this cultural issue. Now, this is Lakhimpur, Kheri. Look at the kind of towns that we're talking about, right? We're talking about Bareilly, we're talking about Badaयूं, we're talking about maybe Aligarh one day. I would say these are, let's say, tier 2, tier 3 towns. Now, look at the approach of the culprit, who thankfully has been the accused, who's been picked up. These are young boys. Look at this man. Now, please tell me what kind of culture, what kind of character are we talking about this man? I mean, why would this person have thought that he's strong enough, he's empowered enough, that he can rape 2 young innocent women and get away with it? What would be the culture then?
Why? Because we have a history of treating women badly. We have misogyny and patriarchy. We have rage. We have in India, there's caste politics as well. So there's power issues that are complicated by marginalization and intersectionality, which we cannot ignore. In the case of the rapes of Dalit women, or any disempowered women, whether it's Bilkis Banu or a Dalit woman or whoever, right? We cannot ignore the intersectionality of their oppressions. So clearly, this is something that we're seeing all the time. Now, these men are exposed to rage and marginalization themselves, and then they're exposed to porn, and that normalizes the abnormal. And in this scenario, you have the culture is just ripe for stuff like this, and it's happening. And unless we have sexual education in schools, unless we counter this culture, it will just keep going on. The clash will exist, and we'll rarely hear about it. Unless it makes the news like it does today.
Vikramji, you think that there's merit in what is being argued by Tara, that, and I'm just thinking about it, whether it's Muzaffarnagar one day, Meerut, Baghpat, you go anywhere, from Jaunpur, Banaras, all the way to Noida, sir. Porn consumption, and I'm only restricting myself right now to UP, if porn consumption is a problem, is that a problem which is being addressed? Are we even aware that it's a problem?
Bhupenji, that it is a problem, and a major one at that. I would be the first one to say yes with a capital Y. Because I am now into education and I feel the obsession on porn. And I know what I'm talking about because I also monitor who is viewing what, and it is a scary situation. What I was aware at the age of 24, kids of 10 are aware of such things at the age of 9 and 10 or even earlier. That is the scary part. They're not mature enough to see, observe and evaluate what they're watching. I was privy to such a thing, and that is a scary situation.
But how you're addressing it? But you're an educationist yourself. Tell me how you're addressing this question today, sir.
I'm addressing the question, but perhaps ethical teaching. What porn does is irreparable damage to the wiring of the mind. To tell them that you are in academics, either you watch porn, or if you are into serious academics, don't make a bigger mess of your life by watching porn.
But won't you be accused of being a moral preacher? I mean, today, in times when the internet professes a free world, you're the vice chancellor of such a prestigious university. You've got people coming from all over the world. Look at the kind of clash of cultures. If someone from Badaयूं is mixing up with someone from Africa or America, how are you going to bring the three people together, sir?
Absolutely, that is perfectly doable. Of course, you require extremely persistence and repeated action. Repetition, internalization, and then it will become habit. But watching porn is a full-time job also. It is an obsession. You would realize that one begins with just say, I'll watch porn only for 5 minutes. It becomes 1 hour, it becomes 2 hours. Then the obsession, I would not go because 2 ladies who are old enough to be my daughters are here, I will stop at that. But the fact of the matter is that watching porn rewires the mind to the extent that academics is a far cry and the person is unable, because you look at your grades when we are off porn and look at your grades when you're on porn. See if you are doing any good to yourself, because any amount of coercion will be very, very counterproductive. To Tara ji's question and observations, very pertinent observations, that being marginalized and watching porn does not absolve them of the guilt or of the crime. Bhupenji, I know what I'm talking about. I've been from tier 2, tier 3 cities to metropolitan cities, the whole of the state. I know what police. And if the policing is appropriate, they say, as in Hindi and Urdu, ऐसा कहर आया कि आशिक इश्क भूल गए. The rule of law is supreme.
Sir, sab to ho gaya na, lekin sir, the same set where we were talking about Operation Romeo squads and we were talking about 112 and whatnot in Lucknow, the famous, there was a full women's team squad. Everything has been tried. My point, Amana ji, is this, and I'm glad that Tara and Vikram Singh have referred to this problem of porn. Is there realization in our country that in the countryside, in the urban areas, consumption of porn maybe is completely distorting the mindsets of people, mindsets of young people, and they don't know how to respond to it. They see something, and maybe they want to replicate that in their lives, and this is what you get. Is that a problem, Amana ji? Are we aware of this problem?
Problem, and this is not the problem of internet porn access. You can get a lot of videos on this street vendor where they film rape videos of local girl and then sell it. I came to know there is a report about it, and then when our children and when our next generation watches these kind of videos without any sexual educations and information, so what kind of mindset they will develop? I think this is some serious question we need to ask and introspect. And sex educations and is very necessary thing. I don't know why we are not talking about this much. This should be taught in the school. We can't shy away from these issues. We have to educate our next generation.
Okay, Mrunalini Deshmukh joining us live as well. Mrunalini ji, it could be just another day when we're again talking about a similar story which keeps happening, which keeps recurring with unfortunate frequency. What do you think is the problem? Is it a problem of culture? Is it a problem of law and order? Is it just that we don't respect women? What's the problem?
I know it it is so painful for me to come again and again on television and say that please do something about the safety and the security of the women. Here it's a double whammy. These are two sisters. They are Dalit. I mean, how low can somebody stoop and get these things done? Now, the problem lies, as you asked me the question, and a very relevant question, the problem lies with the mindset and the misogynist mindset of the men. So long as that we are not able to change, I don't think any law and order situation can do. As far as UP is concerned, and we were told very, very proudly by the concerned people that after the new government has taken over, there has been a law and order situation which is under control. There's safety, security for the women. But I think these are just talks. Where is the reality? The reality is completely different. As you rightly started by saying, that this is going to be one more day when we're going to discuss the same thing. We will talk, we'll debate, we'll do it, we will forget. Public memory is very short. The government and the law and order's memory is shorter than that. And obviously nobody is going to do anything about it. And then again, we are going to come back after some
Then
time.
what do you do? But Mrunalini, my point is,
it.
Mrunalini, Vikram Singh argues that if you have effective policing systems, then these situations won't happen. I'm saying UP, in terms of its size, Mrunalini, is the 6th largest country of the world. What kind of policing do we want? How is policing ever going to solve problems like these? Tell me.
Because there is no fear of police, there's no fear of law and order, which is there in the minds of the people. Now, this has happened over a period of time where people feel that there's a bravado that is there between them. I will rape women, I will use my money power, muscle power, I'll get into it. I can manage all systems. This mindset of saying that I can manage.
No, but in this case, but Mrunalini, can I point out, now what is happening is this, because if you look at this, the latest instance or the Hathras case, you're not talking about the well-heeled people, you're talking maybe of the poorest of the poor. Now, if the poorest of the poor are also going to engage and get involved in these kind of violent crimes, heinous crimes, do we then say that actually as a society, we've not addressed the problem of respect to women, we've not addressed the problem of law and order for women, and that's why you see this?
Absolutely. I mean, today we as women activists, we have been screaming and shouting and yelling our lungs out to say that please treat us as equal, gender equality, respect, security. It's just on paper. Today, there is no respect for women. Women is still objectified. The misogynist mindset objectifies the woman. I need a change in that mindset, and I don't know how that's going to happen. Any amount of rehabilitating them mentally, emotionally, and things like that to make women to expect women to be respected and take care. I think it's been 75 years. Yahi hai Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav. Is this what we have got after 75 years? The women have to still scream that I need protection. These Dalit sisters and Muslim women and minority women are being trampled over, raped, gang raped, murdered, everything under the sun, and nothing is happening. And people are just getting away with murder. It's not just more a saying; it is a reality.
Tara,
it was not a metaphor that people.
Tara, what would be your message, Tara, to all the people who are watching this broadcast today, Tara? What would you be telling them? How do we ensure that next time when we meet on the channel, we're not talking about this story?
Let's hope
we're
that
still
no next time.
Talking about it, Bhupendra. We're still going to be talking about it, unfortunately. The message doesn't seem to penetrate, but we have a cultural problem, we have a morals problem, we have an ethics problem, and that whether it is, the same caste, an equal class or whatever, or whether it is a power issue, where there's an intersection of caste or other levels of disempowerment, it's always the woman who's bearing the brunt. And the more disempowered the woman, the more layers of men will prey on her. And, there's open defecation. These are all issues that we need to address. And we have to work in a multifaceted, I often say that it's a cultural problem, but sure, we need to also improve the law and order. So it's a hydra-headed monster, and we need to also be creative and address all facets of it.
All right, Vikramji, Tara Kaushal, Mrunalini Deshmukh, and Amana Begum, thanks for joining us. And once again, turning the spotlight on a problem, as Tara Kaushal rightly points out, maybe is not the last time will be spoken about. And you know why? Why she said that this is not the last time that we've invited all of them to talk about this? Because we as a society have not managed to address the fundamental question of respect to women. Every election, this question of empowering women is a great vote-catching exercise across the country. And all political parties do that. This could be happening in Rajasthan, which is a Congress-ruled state, could have happened in Delhi, Aam Aadmi Party-ruled state, it's happening in UP. We don't know where else it will happen. I mean, Jharkhand, a JMM-ruled state. But what are you left with? What you're left with is this sorry state of affairs that as a society which wants to prove itself as a global society, which wants to prove itself as a society which is run by a great sense of moral consciousness, is not in a position in which it can give equality to women. And that, unfortunately, is a harsh reality that you need to sleep with tonight. Thanks for joining in. More news on the other side.